that. And he'd been working to meet with me for a long time, and it was one of those things where we never got a chance to meet because he was busy, I was busy, and we sat in the lobby and talked for a while. And I finally exchanged phone numbers, and so I even told Malik, I said, you know what, next year we're doing our convention in Brooklyn, and I'd like for you to come to the convention if you're available. And so next year, if you want to come and meet Malik, he'll likely be there next year. And so and we haven't even really gotten started. Um, and but it was really that cool. And so so yeah, and that's just literally like half a day one. We haven't even done anything yet. So long story short, just drop on in, come on by. You want to be around people that are doing good things. One of the biggest things that I think is missing when you talk about wealth creation in the Black community is a lot of times we're missing a key ingredient for the creation of wealth, and that key ingredient is people. Having people around that can help you, back you, invest in you, support you, give you information, give you access to networks, talk you off a ledge, just pep you up when you need it, congratulate you when you accomplish something great. And I think that if you really want to talk about like a really soft skill that really matters a lot in wealth, is it's the ability to really connect with people and to get along with people. And we've talked about that in terms of relationship management. Like one thing my wife does is she'll counsel families and stuff like that. Dr. George James does this a lot too. He's coming to the next convention. He couldn't make it to this one, but he'll be at the next one. And what they both do is they'll sit down with families that have a family business and say, okay, how are we going to make sure that everybody gets along so the family business doesn't die and your generational wealth doesn't die with it, right? How do you make sure that everybody's feelings are considered and that everybody is feeling respected and that everyone is feeling content with the joint family mission in such a way that you're able to actually build and create and grow and develop and really get things done without it becoming just a complete shit show. And a lot of us have seen this. A lot of us have seen Black families where things just fall apart, things get messy, and then next thing you know, it's like you're missing money, you're missing opportunity because you and your cousin had a great business idea, but you weren't able to fully execute it, or you got halfway through it, and then something happened and it was a misunderstanding, and next thing you know, you not only did you miss the money, but you're missing the relationship now. The fascinating thing, the fascinating thing about life to me is I'm really stunned, even in my own life, my own little traumatized life, because I'm high on the trauma scale like you, is how many times great opportunities were missed based on little misunderstandings. How many times, I wasn't speaking to somebody or we weren't getting along, and literally one conversation changed everything. Has it ever gone through that where you just have one conversation and suddenly you're like not only are you cool again, but you're like best buddies again because you're so happy to be able to connect again. Like you couldn't admit it because you want to be tough and you don't want to appear weak, but then you make up, and then suddenly that person you're going out of your way to connect to that person, right? So anyway, that was a quick financial thought that just came to mind yesterday, or today, yesterday, all that, especially as I'm connecting with every all of you here at the convention. And we, like I said, we're proud. We did sell out. There's thousands of people here, and InvestFest is down the street, and they've got like a lot of young people, and their vibe is a little bit different, but it's a lot of fun, and it's wealth oriented, and I think it's good for the culture overall. And I love it. I didn't like it. I think I disagree. I didn't align with it when they would bring people like Diddy onto the stage. And I really even wonder how it's going to play out long term when you're talking about guys like Tyler Perry. I don't know what to think about Tyler Perry. I met him. He seemed like a nice guy, but also you see he's kind of dealing with some interesting financial complications now. He's got this $250 million lawsuit over some sexual stuff going on. I don't assume he did the things that he's being accused of doing at all. I just think that it really speaks to the complexities and the nuances of how we make money. It's not just how much money you make. It's really how do you make your money? What's your journey like in order for that to happen? And I encourage you to really consider that it's not just the outcome that matters when it comes to wealth. It's really the journey and the process. It's really a lot. It's more fun to make money though, in an enjoyable way, in a low stress sort of way, than it is to just make money in like some sort of horrible high stress kind of way. If I had a choice between making $1 million and being happy and making 50 million and being stressed, I'll take the million because you're getting $1 million worth of cash and another $100 million worth of peace, right? I mean, you understand that, right? That wealth is typically not money. Wealth is usually not financial. So don't ever, when you're doing stuff, and again, this is not even me speaking negatively about the Tyler Perry thing, because I don't know about these lawsuits. People file lawsuits over everything. But at the same time, it's like, just think about how you want to make your money. That's what I would say. All right, so one thing I'm going to play really quick is Claymation Boyce decided to make a visit today, and get another trigger warning. Claymation Boyce likes to cuss, and I tell him to stop, and but he doesn't listen to me because he just doesn't care about anything. But he has good information, and I wanted to share something that Claymation Dr. Boyce has to say about insurance. So let me play this. This is on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. I want to play this. Let me know if you can hear this. And so here we go. In five, four, three, two, go.
The actual fuck is insurance? It's not just some boring bill you pay every month, it's wealth protection. It's basically a financial bodyguard that shows up when life tries to sucker punch you. Most people think insurance is a scam until their car gets wrecked, their house catches fire, or they end up in the hospital staring at a bill big enough to buy a damn yacht. Suddenly, that waste of money policy looks like a lifesaver. Here's the deal: rich folks don't buy insurance because they're scared, they buy it because they're not stupid. They know one accident, one lawsuit, or one medical emergency can wipe out years of wealth building in seconds. Insurance is the shield that keeps your financial empire from crumbling. You don't get car insurance because you plan to crash. You don't get health insurance because you plan to get sick. You get it because shit happens, and without protection, you're one bad day away from being broke. So yeah, insurance is boring until it's the only thing standing between you and bankruptcy. I'm Little Claymation Dr. Boyce, and I'm here to let you know I don't give a fuck. I love you, and I'll see you next time. What the?
All right. So forgive his cussing. I'm going to talk to Little Claymation Boyce about all that cussing. That just ain't cool. It's not appropriate. We got children watching, but still, he has good information, so I can't fire him because I kind of need smart people around me. And my point is on this in this little clip is sometimes things like insurance get misinterpreted. We're actually going to do some sessions on insurance while we're here at the convention, and just what it looks like to be fully insured. One of the biggest rules of wealth is the protection of wealth. Like, that's one of the biggest rules. You got to protect the ball. You cannot. Okay, Agnes says the cursing's not cute. Hey, I can't tell. I can't. He's a grown man. I can't tell him what to do, Agnes. So I'm sorry. All right. So anyway, here's the thing. So when you talk about insurance, one of the biggest rules of wealth is protecting the wealth. It doesn't make sense to accumulate wealth if you can't protect it. And and the protection of wealth really isn't just about insurance or insurance policies. It's actually about doing any and everything necessary to make sure that the wealth stays safe. That it's about assessing risk factors and making sure that you keep your money away from the things that can cost you money, the things that can drain your money. So insurance might not just mean getting a policy. Insurance might mean Shannon Sharp not sleeping with 20-year-old OnlyFans models, right? Like that because that's a risk factor. Or an insurance might mean dealing with my trauma and my emotional shortcomings so that I'm then able to make logical, rational decisions as it pertains to what I do with my wealth, right? Insurance might mean now that I'm doing better financially, I don't go into spaces with in scenarios with people that have nothing to lose. Like, I'm not going to be running through the hood, where everybody's got a gun, if I'm a multimillionaire, because that can end up making oh, sorry, that can end up making me financially vulnerable, because if you go through a place where there isn't much money and the people know that you have a lot of money, maybe because you've announced it, which again, it's another risk factor, right? You maybe you're flashy and you brag about it, well, then people, you become a target, right? So ultimately, being financially safe and bulletproof in many ways really comes down to really assessing all those different things that can threaten your wealth and making sure that you process all that. Like, for example, a lot of wealthy families, one thing you'll notice, excuse me, is that wealthy families are very picky even about who you marry. If you know because they see that a risk factor is that you're extremely wealthy and you've got this massive trust fund and inheritance, And next thing you know, you end up marrying somebody who picked you out as a target because you're doing so well, right? They know that if I can just marry into this family, I'm going to be good financially. And these are all risk factors. And it becomes a little touchy because because what happens is that when you're trying to protect your money, it requires you to form the connection between all the things that you don't typically believe should be related to money. Like a lot of people think love and money should be disconnected and separate. I don't agree. I don't agree. When my wife and I got married, we signed a prenup. And you don't sign a prenup because you expect to get a divorce. You sign a prenup because you're realistic and you know divorce is a possibility. And you don't and you know that if I do have to get a divorce, okay, if the marriage is dead, that's already bad enough. Do I really want to make it worse by having a messy process in that divorce? I mean, the only thing worse than a divorce is an ugly divorce, if you know what I mean. Like once you have gotten into a situation, I don't know how many of y'all, anybody in here divorced, anybody, how many of y'all have seen a divorce or seen a messy divorce, like up close? Anybody seen that? Anybody ever seen just the pain and the trauma and just the mental illness that can come out of an ugly divorce, where there's jealousy and rage, and you're cussing each other over who gets the couch, and they took my kids, and I mean it's terrible. It's a horrible experience. And so one of the things that's really interesting um is that the reason you have messy breakups is because you have a lack of emotional intelligence in our society. You have a lot of people that just they go off the deep end, they just go into this deep rage with each other, and and then what happens is you carry all these toxic emotions that really are killing you. They're really I mean, all this cortisol's in your body. I hate that son of a bitch. I can't stand that. If I see you, your blood pressure is going up. You break into a sweat. Your eyes twitching. All these physical outcomes are occurring because you're so mad at this other person. And so, and the lack of emotional intelligence, in my view, not judging anybody, but what I realized in my own journey when I would get angry or jealous or mad or whatever is I realized I said, God, this is hurting me more than it's hurting the person I'm mad at. Has anyone ever noticed that? That literally when you even jealousy, I'm such a I'm such a weirdo husband. I kid you not. I don't get offended. Like, I'm so blessed that my wife is gorgeous. She's the most beautiful woman I ever met. And when men, try to flirt with my wife, I laugh it off. I'm like, well, of course he's gonna flirt with you. Look at how pretty you are. If he didn't flirt with you, I'd be offended, right? And it sounds weird, but that really comes from the fact that years ago, I decided jealousy is not a healthy emotion. Jealousy sucks. I mean, like jealousy, you're mad. You're trying to control something that you can't control. I can't control what somebody else does. If my wife wants to look, let me just look. Okay, there was a whole internet conspiracy theory. I didn't know that I was important enough to be in the middle of somebody's conspiracy theory. But there was one where Willie D from the Ghetto Boys was in our wedding, and we took a picture together, and everyone made this whole story up about how my wife secretly wanted Willie D, and that she only married me to get to Willie. Willie and I laugh about it. Willie's one of my best friends, but it was like wow, like really crazy. Like so, all these people were just like and or if you look at this picture. Let me show you another picture. This could make someone jealous. Maybe I should be jealous. I'm not smart enough to be jealous about this. But let me show you. Last night, let me just tell you this. I have to give. So we saw Malik Yoba at the convention, right? Malik Yoba up close. Now again, I don't know who he dates and all this stuff, but he's like got a presence. He's taller than me. He's handsome. He was a sex symbol, and I was standing next to him. I was like, I'm really impressed. You're like really, I can see why you're a famous actor because he's got that. In fact, when I walked up to him, he was speaking with a British accent because somebody accidentally called him Idris Elba. Now, no one's ever mistaken me for Idris Elba. I always keep waiting for that day to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. But someone else walked up and they said, "You're Idris Elba, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. I just flew in from London, mate." Right? And he starts doing this really great British accent. And I'm like, "Are you British too?" Like I didn't know that. I thought all the damn actors they always play that game with us, right? They sound all hood and then they talk like a bloke, right? Or whatever, right? So not no disrespect to all my friends in London. I love y'all too. But it's hilarious, right? And he's like, no, no, no. I was just pretending. I was just messing with him, right? But it was like a perfect accent because he's a great actor, right? So he's super talented, super smart. He's tall. He's got a presence, and so I'm taking this picture with my wife, and it's like, what good would it do for me to be jealous of my wife standing next to this guy who's like this internationally known sex symbol? I'll never be that. But it's like, whatever, man. Like, you can't stop that. That's my point. You can't change. Like, and so jealousy, I'm not gonna go too far into that, but just my little Dr. Boyce theory on jealousy is such a wasteful emotion. Either she gonna want to be with you or she's not. That was what I figured out when I was 29. I was like, either she likes me or she doesn't. I'm convinced, through her behavior patterns, that my wife really likes me. And until that day changes, I'm going to walk with that assumption. And you have no idea how much of a weight it takes off your back to just say it's gonna be what it's gonna be. It's okay. I'm assuming that if my wife decided to throw me in the garbage, there would be some woman who would who likes smart guys who would dig me out of the trash and clean me up and move me on to a better space, right? And so my point is to say that when you're talking about, just listen, specifically talking about divorce and how financially costly it is. Divorce is already hard. Um, Breaking up is already hard. Breaking up a business partnership is hard. Breaking up a friendship, all these things are hard. There should be a science and a consideration into setting yourself up so that it's done with as little pain as possible. This is a wealth saving strategy. Couples that can have smooth divorces lose less of their wealth than couples that have ugly, messy, crazy divorces. That's just a fact. Couples that have, divorces where everybody acts mature, nobody nobody hates anybody, right? Nobody's fighting over the kids and fighting in front of the kids. Couples that can divorce in a mature way, they're able to at least preserve some of the damage that's already going to come from the fact that you're breaking down the machine, you're breaking apart an institution. And so what happens is when these institutions fall apart, you're at risk of everybody stuck and scrambling in a capitalist society. In fact, let me show you all this video. Again, if Malik, if you're watching this, man, I'm just messing with you, bro. It was great to meet you. I don't know where he watches or when, so he could be in this class right now, and I just wouldn't, and so yeah. But it was great to meet him. He's a smart guy, and I really like talking to him. But here I'm gonna play this video for you, and it really makes me think about the breakdown of the black family and the economic consequences of the family, and how I would say that in many cases we don't ask the right questions. We really don't. And also, before I move on, I want to remind everybody, if you want to join us in stock options class, you can go to drboyceprime.com. So feel free to go to Dr. Boyce Prime. And also, if you want to keep up with the All Black National Convention and get access to Brooklyn tickets first, they're going to sell out. They always do. You can text the letters A, B, and C to 87948. So text A, B, and C to 87948, and I'll send the link out to you guys first. Okay. All right. So here is this video. And does anybody remember that story, the viral story about the Burger King mom who was working at the Burger King all by herself and running the whole thing by herself? How many of y'all remember that story? Anybody else see that? Well, if you remember the story, and it was sad. It was inspirational and sad. Just a reflection of how hardworking black women are and how the world can depend on black women and black women save everybody. But I think the question then becomes, well, who's saving black women, right? So she actually got fired. She just got fired. According to her, she got fired because she was late or something. It had something to do with the kids. I don't know what they fired her for, but she's mad about it. So I'm gonna play this video, and then I'm gonna tell you the question that I asked that a lot of that I don't know. I don't know why other people didn't ask this question. So anyway, here it goes.
But Evergreen fired me because I've been late because of my kids, bro. My kids come first. And now when y'all gonna watch my kids? Y'all don't pay for no babysitter, no nothing. But it's cool that everybody talking about, cause I bought jewelry and shit with my money. That shit came from Sheen. I'm not buying no real jewelry when I got bills and shit. What y'all mad? Y'all had PPP loans and did that with y'all money? The fuck? I'm already aggravated. I'm pissed. I'm already depressed. I'm going through this mental shit and motherfucking fucking with me. Just leave me alone, bro. This shit aggravating at this point. I don't even care, bro. Y'all can have all this shit. I ain't want no fame, no money, no none of this shit. My mind is already fucked up. I'm trying to keep pushing for my kids. Why can I do this shit no more? I cannot. The devil been on my back bad. You know what? He got it. He won. The devil fucking won. I promise you he won. Y'all, he got it. He got it, y'all. But Evergreen fired me because
Yeah. So, how many of you were heartbroken to watch that? It sounds like terrible, right? It's very painful to watch. Um, I think she raised some money when she went viral the first time. I think she raised about $29,000 online from people that donated to a GoFundMe on her behalf. So hopefully she'll be okay, um, at least temporarily, right? Uh, that video was sad to me, and the question I asked, and I didn't even know if it was an asshole question to ask or not, but I said, you got these kids. Well, where are their fathers? Where is the fathers, plural? I'm not judging. I'm just, but I maybe I am. Um, I just really don't. It's so fascinating to me how we can watch a narrative about a single mother struggling to take care of her kids, and almost nobody says, where is the father? So this goes back to my original point. We know that black women save everybody. They have a slogan, saved by black women again, whether you're talking about corporate America, whether you're talking about the Democratic Party, even some of these educational institutions that have black women saddled with more student loan debt than any other group of people. Everybody, black women are saving everybody, but I'm like, well, who's saving black women? And so when I saw that, I felt bad for her because I think her video also shows you that about the deep connection between financial security and emotional stability. Like so this ain't just about the money. You see that she's crying. She says, "My head is all messed up," and I mean, she sounds like she's on the brink. And and this is what you do to your children when you don't prepare them financially for the future. Now, again, I'm not going to make the assumption that her parents knew anything about any of the stuff that we talk about in class every day, even though we talk and it don't cost you nothing to come in here, right? But we know what the culture is. The culture is not one that has fully embraced economic preparation the way that I believe that we should. But I want you to just really pay attention and notice how um, how stressed out and miserable this poor lady is. And I want you to imagine your 3 year old, your 7 year old, your 12-year old, 10, 15, 20 years from now, with no financial security, with two or three kids, with no help for the kids, because things happen, right? We forget that sex creates children. We think sex is independent from children. So I wasn't having a baby, I was just having sex. No, you were having a baby. You just didn't know that, right? Whatever, right? Not judging. It is what it is, right? And then and then that child screaming and crying on the internet and talking about how they're on the brink of whatever of God knows what because they don't have financial security because they just lost their job. And the colonialist aspect of it pretty much says that we can only feel safe, we can only feel happy, we can only feel whole, we can only feel good when the white man allows it. When he decides to be gracious enough to create a job for us, that's the only way we can feel safe. And the problem is that safety is a false sense of security. That safety is economic Stockholm syndrome. That false safety is you saying, I'm good, I'm safe, I've got a good job, I'm making good money. But he knows that all he's got to do is pull the trip switch and he can suddenly turn your whole dream into a complete nightmare. He can remove the sun and make it rain on top of your head. He can literally take you from peace and stability to chaos, fear, and absolute insanity. That he can do that. He can just by doing one thing, by just saying, "I'm sorry, Lakeisha, we don't need your services anymore." Or we decided to go in a different direction. Thank you for saving us again, Black woman. We appreciate that because y'all are so wonderful. But because Black Lives Matter and all that. But we're gonna go in a different direction because we are corporate America and we don't give a shit. We don't care about you or anybody. We care about we worship one thing and that's profitability. That's it. So looking at that video, what I saw there was I saw Um, really that holy trinity of life, health, wealth, and relationships. I saw all three of those things. I saw a woman whose mental and physical health has been impacted significantly. Her wealth appears to, to be struggling a little bit, and that's impacting her mental and physical health. The mental health is gone, which is going to impact the physical health. It's hard to be in great shape when you're working 14-hour shifts at Burger King all day, right? Which also then is related to connected to her relationships. Why is she stressing out over the money? Well, because she's got kids. And why is this the struggle there? Well, because she's the sole breadwinner. All these kids are being supported by this one job at Burger King. When an ideal preparation process, I'm not judging her, I'm not talking about her anymore, but ideally, you have to ask that question, like why are all three of the kids or four of the kids, whatever, being supported by one person's income from a Burger King? Why or aren't there two incomes? And then if you want to go deeper, you can start talking about little basic things like I've explained to you how anybody can invest in the stock market and prepare financially, right? So I'm not, again, not judging that situation, right? It's not me looking at her and saying, "Oh, shame on you." I'm not doing that. But the thing is, I'm going to ignore anybody who says that I'm wrong for talking about this thing in this way. One of the things that I believe in deeply is that we must be problem solvers. And so every situation is a signal from God in terms of telling you, like, look, this is your issue. This is your risk factor. Now, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to prepare for it and learn from it? Or are you going to sit and just cry about it and be sad about it and make another freaking Tyler Perry movie about it? If you watch Tyler Perry's last movie, not my bone to pick with Tyler, but my wife and I watched that movie with that poor lady. All that lady was in the Burger King. That was Taraji P. Henson's character. If you saw, anybody see the Tyler Perry movie with Taraji that he made about the lady who lost her job and of course everything else bad happened, like every single horrible thing that can happen to a person happened all at once, and then suddenly she was like, I don't know, not robbing a bank, but she had a gun in a bank. And anything that involves you being in a bank holding a gun is not good for you, right? And the crazy thing about this movie that was really fascinating to me, which tells you everything you need to know about Black economic Stockholm syndrome, is that the crazy thing was that there was no healing, there was no resolution, there was literally no point where there was an epiphany, there was nothing learned from it. It was like, look at how horrible it is for Black people, and look at this poor lady suffer. And you're gonna love this movie and give us money because her trauma is gonna trigger something in you, and you're gonna be in there crying, which means that you're gonna be ready to buy another movie ticket after this one's done. But at the end of the movie, if I'm not mistaken, she rolled away in handcuffs. I couldn't watch the whole thing. I watched about 70%. My wife finished it, and she told me that. I said, "Well, how did it end? Did somebody come and help? Did her one of her baby daddies show up and write a check? Did her long lost dad show up and get her out of the situation? Did the community just come together to save this Black woman who's saving everybody? Like what happened?" And she said nothing. She said she got hauled away in a police car. I said, "That's it?" I said, "Damn, it's really depressing to be Black." They make, and so they make these movies that I don't quite understand it. I don't understand, and it almost makes me wonder if we almost celebrate that misery to the point where we hold on to it for dear life. Like if I'm not Black and miserable, then I'm losing part of my identity. Do you understand? Like there's something about, for some of us, not this lady. I don't know this lady. So I'm gonna put that to the side for now, but there's something about us where that Stockholm syndrome has led us to the point where we almost get offended if someone comes along and says, "Well, a two-parent household has a higher income than a one-parent household." Well, what are you trying to say? Are you attacking Black women for the? No, I'm just saying that thinking deeply about relationships will make a massive difference in terms of our ability to survive economically. Like if I really sit back, I was sitting there at the table at the convention last night. I was talking to a young lady, 27 years old. And actually, I was talking to Dr. Lene Javette, who is one of the world's leading experts on Black female entrepreneurs. And so she's sitting over here. Across from me was Monet. Monet's 27. She was there with her mom. And Monet works with us too. So here's the conversation. This is a good relevant to this. So Dr. Lene says she's talking about dating, and she says, She mentions the dating process. She says dating should go from what is it? She said like you have your first date and then and she said a lot of people they're dating multiple people to get to know them and then you pick a person to date exclusively and then you go into a relationship, right? And she said that that should be the process instead of going from like dating multiple people to a relationship. There should be that step in the middle where you say we're dating each other exclusively so we can decide if we want to have a relationship. I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? And then Monet says, the 27-year-old, she says, actually, when I met my fiance, I didn't even want to do it that way. My first step was actually to become friends with him. I wanted to be his friend, and then I would date him, and then I dated him exclusively, and then we formed a relationship, right? And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I like that. And what I liked about the conversation was that it's like you're getting real information about sort of how to proceed with this really volatile process of getting to know people, letting people into your life, and or sleeping with people and all that. And it's not, and unfortunately, it's not going to work well on the internet because the internet is full of untrained relationship gurus who give you really good sound bites. They give you a really good sound bite. They say what you want to hear, and everybody's clapping, and you think that that's good information when really it's not. The best information is when somebody's really dissecting a process and saying, okay, how do we end up in all this trouble? How do we end up with such a high divorce rate? How do we end up with so many baby mama, baby daddy situations? How do we end up with so many kids that are all solely surviving on mama's one income from her job at Burger King. Because we know in America they don't pay minimum wage workers what they should be paid. Minimum wage should be $25 an hour or something. It shouldn't be whatever it is. But instead, we just have these chaotic situations that get created, and it's due to what I would refer to. I talked about this extensively yesterday on my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance. We have sort of this anti-intellectualism in the community. I think that really plagues us. We don't take our time, sit back and breathe, and just really analyze. Like, okay, how does this keep on happening? Because if you really sit back and think about these things, you're going to find a few things that if you dealt with them appropriately, in my opinion, you're going to have a much higher quality of life. Like, for example, if you deal with the drug thing, drugs have cost black people probably about $10 trillion worth of economic potential, right? When you have, there was, something that I heard a story not too long ago about a guy who was doing really well with his family, and then he got into drugs. Next thing you know, it was nothing but chaos. All the money was gone, of course, but then there was a lot of trauma that came with it. And so now everybody's spending money on therapy. Nobody's doing well because everybody's sort of recovering from all the trauma that came from having this drug addicted father in the house, right? So so with this conversation, it was the kind of conversation I can vibe with because you're actually helping me to figure out how to make my life better. And I wonder, what does it take, or why do we not have more spaces where Black people are just getting together and saying, let's make a list of our top eight, nine problems, maybe our top five problems, and let's sit down with smart people who are going to look at data and research and even stories, hear stories, and find common factors that we can then go back to solve and fix that. I think the Black community struggles because there's really very few spaces that form honest think tanks where you've really got the smartest people solving the most important problems. If you look at mainstream media, you literally have rappers giving you advice on politics and business, like, like it's almost comical, right? You also have this over reliance on politicians who politicians are not there to make your life better. Politicians are there to get your vote. That's it. That's all they care about, And so effectively, I would argue that if you look at that video and you go back to it, a couple things that jump out at me is number one, two-parent households are much more financially stable than one-parent households. How do I activate that information? Well, that means that before I sleep with somebody, I'm going to really take my time to vet to make sure that this person is someone who's going to supplement my life in the appropriate way. And then on top of that, I'm going to also spend time studying how to make sure that when we get together, our relationship is solid, because that's going to be costly for us to break up because we're out here trying to survive in a capitalist society that doesn't care about either one of us. So we better figure this shit out. We better bend over backwards to make it work. Because here's the thing. A lot of people will then say to me, well, you don't understand Dr. Boyce, he was a terrible person, or the relationship was bad, or this happened and that happened, and it's complicated. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's complicated, but you think that that's easier than you bending over for that white man every other day? Because you're going to submit to something. You're going to submit. Either you're going to submit to your relationship, or you're going to submit to massa. And massa don't give a damn about you. Massa going to take everything you got. He going to rip your soul right out of your body. So part of the reason I do submit, I submit all the time. I submit to my wife. I submit to my marriage. I submit to my family. I submit to you. Because if I don't submit to this, then I got to submit to something else. A lot of black people struggle financially because you're out here struggling by yourself. And the reason you're struggling by yourself is because you have not healed yourself enough. You have not sat your ass down long enough to really think carefully about where your flaws are, where your pitfalls are, and also why you keep bringing people into your life where you got to immediately evict them when something goes wrong. What's your process? How much time did you spend studying just how to be a happy, successful human being with healthy relationships? Have you ever even read a book on relationship building and networking? Have you ever done that? Because I'm sure that if you have a good job, you've read many books on how to get your damn job. And that goes back to my basic point. I really think that we are confusing a little bit because we will spend years and years studying how to get a job working for white. We'll go to college 4 straight years, 4 years dedicated to serving white people, but we won't study for 40 minutes on how to serve black people or how to serve ourselves, how to serve our family, how to serve our community. So circling back, let's go back to that video, right? Again, I don't know this lady's family, and I'm not talking about her, but really, you think about this and you want to avoid this for your kids, then their training on how to be a healthy, successful human being should be more extensive than any training they get on anything else. Yeah, I know they're going to go to college and they're going to learn how to be accountants and lawyers and all this other stuff, but none of that's more important than learning how to be a successful human being, whatever that means. What is it? Well, I mean, it's easy to lay it out. What does that mean? It means if I'm picking women, I'm gonna pick the right woman. I'm gonna do it strategically, so that I don't become one of these successful black men who loses everything because I'm chasing tail all the time. Um, if I get married, I'm gonna learn how to stay married. There's science on this. There's actual real science on how to minimize your probability of divorce, which minimizes your probability of losing all your wealth, which maximizes the probability that you actually get to keep the results of all your hard work. What else am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to also study mental health. Think about it. I mean, success is not fun if you're always unhappy. Success is not fun if you don't understand how to deal with what's going on internally. And I can tell you, as a person who is really committed to my own mental health, I can't tell you how hard I have to work to keep my mind calm in stressful situations. And I pull every tool out of my bag, and it's maybe because I'm traumatized and crazy. We all are. But literally, and I thank God I have those tools because I think about people that don't have any of those tools, and I say, man, my heart goes out to them because I'm sure they're feeling quite tortured because life can be hard, life can be complicated, life can be difficult. So why not sit down with or listen to even podcasts or talk to therapists and all these people that understand all these tools and just have your little arsenal set up. I mean, think about this again. If you get a job working in that factory and they give you a bunch of tools to learn in the factory, you'll master all the tools because you want to get the job. Well, I think you should master all the tools that are going to help you to do the most important job, which is being a good father, a good mother, being a good human being, being successful in life, being happy, at peace. So sometimes, and in fact, that's why sometimes I'll bring up something small and I'll end up over talking it. I know what I do. I know I can't help it. I'll talk about something that seems like it should only take 30 seconds to talk about. I might talk about it for 10 minutes because I thought about it so much. And I'm like, oh, this is why people struggle, or I would study people's lives. When I went to grad school at Indiana University, I would just sit there by myself in the room when I was 22, and I would think about people's lives, and I would look at successful people and unsuccessful people, and I would say, well, how did this happen? Where did this come from? Right? So do those autopsies on the lives of people around you that are suffering. So like when I watched that video, I'm literally watching it doing an autopsy. I'm doing in mathematics, there's a term for it called backward optimization. And I'm looking at where we are now. She's in a car, she's crying, she's talking so, she sounds so sad that I wonder, I hope she doesn't hurt herself or something, right? And she's clearly stressed out. She's on the edge and she's financially insecure. And I'm like, how did this happen? How did we get here? Right? You back that up, you got kids. Where'd the kids come from? I'm sure the kids have fathers. Let me interview the dads. What are the dads saying about this? How did you end up here? Like, okay, you're working at Burger King, nothing wrong with that. Food's good. It's not good for you, but whatever. How did we get here? Right? And I think that by doing that, that's really what's going to solve our problems as Black people. I really think we have to think about how we build our children as almost like you're building a car. If you get a car that comes out of your damn factory and that car is malfunctioning, it's exploding on the street, the steering wheel don't work, it's breaking down every 2 weeks. A smart engineer is going to go back and say, okay, let's look at the manufacturing process. So when I see millions of Black children out here who are thugs, want to go kill people, I'm like, where did that thug come from? How did that happen? Who manufactured that? Right? When I see somebody who's struggling as a single mom, I say, well, who manufactured that situation? How did that happen? And the same thing can be true when you see people that are successful, when they figure out, how to be economically independent, how to be mentally healthy, how to have a 50-year marriage. Well, that gets manufactured too. And I really think that that's more valuable than simply saying, well, it's because of the system or it's because of white people. I know the system's going to do what the system's going to do. That's it. But one fortunate thing that you have in America that you don't have in a lot of countries is you have enough personal liberty to circumvent that system if you want to. Nobody said that you have to grow up and work for white people. Nobody said that you have to grow up and be financially insecure. Nobody said that you have to not value education. Nobody's making you do that. They're persuading you, sure, but nobody's making you do that. And I can tell you in my own personal experience, I never forget when I went to talk to the one and only Reverend Jesse Jackson, the guy I love. I love him and I love his family, but I didn't agree with him on this day. And I said, I want to do a tour called BOMB, Building Outstanding Men and Boys. I want to build better Black boys. I think that our boys are weak. Our boys are broken. Our men just get their asses kicked left and right, and it's an embarrassment. That's not who the hell we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be men. We're supposed to stand up. We're supposed to see a Black woman struggling and be able to help, right? We're supposed to see a Black child unprotected and be able to stand up and protect that child. What's going on right now? And I don't care how politically incorrect it is. I don't care. I think that there is. If you want to talk about the system's doing, the system, it isn't just weakening boys in our community. It's weakening boys all throughout America. The boys now, has anybody seen these studies? Boys now don't even want to date girls anymore. They're not even having sex anymore. Like sex is how you make babies, in case y'all don't know. But in case for those who aren't sure about it, but literally they said that the population is declining because the boys won't even leave their room. They're in there with their video games and their porn and whatever, and they're like, I'm not even gonna go talk to a girl because if I go talk to a girl, then I'm gonna be seen as a predator or a bad person. And I don't want that to happen. Has anybody else seen these studies that talk about what's going on with the boys? And so I personally think that political correctness needs to be thrown out the window. I think that you have to solve a problem here. And so anyway, when I had the conversation with Reverend Jackson, I said, yeah, BOMB, Building Outstanding Men and Boys. What does that mean? And that was personal for me because I thought about men that I looked up to who let me down. My father wasn't there in my life. Drugs got him. Um, my uncle struggled. Prison and probably prison rape demoralized him. I had people that I looked up to, that I admired, that I wanted to follow and have as role models, but they couldn't, they were incapable of doing the job. They were not prepared for the job. So I had to start becoming my own role model when I was 13 years old. I became the adult in that relationship with my uncle when I was 13 or 14 years old. And I'm like, that should not be right. So what that did to me was it made me absolutely determined to not do that to my baby brother. My baby brother is 12 years younger than me. And the number one goal that I had in life was that I was going to come through for him. I said, I'm going to always show up and be the best man I can be. I ain't going to show up as a perfect man. I'm not going to show up as a flawless man. I'm not going to show up as a man who doesn't make mistakes. But I am going to always show up as a man who's doing his best to be the best man I can be, period. Right. And so my point was, when I was talking to him, was I said, why don't we try to systematize that? I said, look, they systematically produce thugs in our community. They're systematically producing illiterate children in our community. They're systematically producing NFL and NBA players in our community. They're systematically producing black people that go to college and get student loans in our community. They're systematically producing employees for white people in our community. Why can't we systematically produce some of the toughest, strongest, smartest, most capable men on the planet? Why is that not doable? And I remember the conversation was kind of disappointing for me because all he kept talking about was the system and they don't create enough jobs and the Republicans and I didn't want to hear any of that. I was like, I don't want to hear that shit. I never want to hear that a black person can't have self-determination because a white person won't allow it. That to me is the saddest, most racist, most pathetic thing that we can ever admit to, is that the reason our people can't succeed is because white people won't do it. The reason our kids don't learn black history is because white people won't teach it in a public school. Teach your own damn kids. Why the hell are you letting those people teach your kids anyway? I'm not saying I don't dislike white people. This is not anti-white. This is pro-black. I want you to know the difference. Why in the hell do we think we can't learn black history unless a white man is teaching it? So the point is to say that when you talk about oppression, I really believe we contribute to our own oppression in so many different ways. And the problem is that there's a contingent of us that's just not even ready for that conversation because you're overly invested in this idea that your progress is going to be determined by whether or not white people decide to be nice to you. That your financial security will only exist if they decide to hire you and keep you on the payroll. That the only way you can be happy or raise successful children is if they allow it and they support it. The only way you can learn is if they open the door for you. And none of these things are true. None of these things are true. None of these things are true. So again, circling back to that video about the poor lady with who's in all this anxiety because she lost her job at Burger King and she's raising the kids. I think that maybe there's room for just sort of a blueprint, you know? Like let's stop acting like family building is something where you simply wing it. In fact, if you look at things like fatherless homes, I'm a big believer that having a father in the home makes a difference, and it's crazy to me that we live in a world where even that's seen as a controversial opinion. And I'm like, well, I get it. Now I understand why I get so much pushback. It's because most people don't even have that anymore. So they don't know the benefit. They don't understand the value that a good dad has when he's right there in the house every day. Or they'll say, well, if he's messed up, then we don't want him in the house. Oh, okay, well, you don't say that about mothers. You don't say a messed up mother, a mother who's mean to her kids or is mean to her husband shouldn't be around their kids. Like so why do you think the mother is essential but the father is optional? That no, the father's not optional. The father matters. What we do is really important. Our job matters. Our presence matters. And if you want to see the results of that, just go out in the streets of Chicago. Look at how many teenagers you have running the streets doing all kinds of crazy stuff. The science proves it. It's easy. When the boy gets 13 years old, he stops listening to his mother. His voice deepens. He's got muscle mass. He's taller than his mother. She's just nagging him at that point. Sometimes it takes a man in the house that's bigger than him to get in his face and say, "No, you're not going out in the street today. That's not happening today." And it's insane to me that we've forgotten that. But you can go watch old episodes of Good Times and you realize how important James was. Anybody remember that? How important James was in Good Times? How it felt when JJ would get out of line and his daddy would get in his face, or his daddy would protect him, or his daddy would protect Thelma. Like that father role was really important. And shout out to the sister who played on Good Times. Give me her, put her name in the chat. Forgot her name. The mother. She played Florida Evans. I can't remember her name though. Forgive me. Anyway, shout out to her because she insisted. Esther Roll, thank you. Esther Roll insisted on the father being in the show. She said, if you don't put the father in the show, I'm not doing it. And I think that I think that they have an issue with that because they want to see the black family weak. Because the black family unit is hard to penetrate when it's strong, but when it's broken and there's a missing component, there's a missing mother or missing father, then it's easy to penetrate and achieve your goals. If you're a capitalist and you want to extract wealth, they're an easy target. If you are trying to pull people out to for other reasons, sexually or whatever it is, it's easy. It's easy for an R. Kelly to slither into a household that doesn't have a protective person in that house. R. Kelly couldn't have got to my sister because my father would have put him 6 feet in a grave. He would not be here today if you tried that stuff. And so anyway, I'm done talking about this. I know I'm now at this point I'm kind of going into stuff that seems to deviate from wealth. But let's circle it back to wealth so that we don't forget that these are all financial conversations. Every study shows that a stable family is more economically secure than an unstable family. Keeping the kids close, I think, is critical because society is going to always try to distract your child and get them off doing something else. And what happens there that's really unfortunate is let's say you run a business and you got kids that are in your house and you're sending them to the public school and they're going off and they're doing stuff with white people. That white man's business is always going to look more impressive than yours in many cases. And so what'll happen is the kid will come home and you'll say, hey, son, I'd like for you to be part of the family business. And a lot of times the son will say, no, dad, I want to go be an engineer and I want to go work for Lockheed Martin. Because Lockheed Martin is this, $500 billion company or whatever. And your dad's just running a business that, maybe barely breaks $250,000 a year or 100,000 a year. You're proud of it because you built that from the ground up. You bootstrapped that, but it's not as impressive as Lockheed Martin. And so sometimes even I'm a big advocate of even keeping kids close because you're minimizing their level of exposure to all these other things that might distract them from the core of what I think that they can do for the family, right? Again, I'm not saying you block them off from the world or tell them they can't, listen to music or whatever. I'm saying though that ultimately what I have noticed is that even when you are a successful black man or black woman, and let's say you do that with a business, unfortunately, we don't have we lose a valuable resource, which is our children, because they get pulled in these other directions. Like I can tell you for a fact, even in my own household, I've had my kids work with me. They've all come to the convention, but every one of them is looking at careers that are out here because they don't understand even myself, even the fact that I could show them how to make millions of dollars and do all these other things, they're still like, oh no, I want to go do that, so I want to go do that because there's a mindset in the community. Now, mind you, don't worry about me. I've got people that are going to run the Black Business School and everything once I'm gone. I've got a whole board put together. It's all in my estate plan. But one of the things I noticed in my personal journey is that it was a real challenge to say, hey, let's look over here what the black man built. Like that's pretty that's pretty amazing. Like what we got here is pretty good. But when the world's kind of saying, no, 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 you're black, you're supposed to go and work for a big white company and do these other things, it's very, very difficult sometimes to compete with that. So I would say this is an open confession. My wife's in the other room, so I'm sure we're gonna have a conversation about this because even she hasn't heard me say these things. If I could do it over again and I had, let's say, 5 kids, or whatever, I would probably educate them myself, not to avoid their ability to interact with the world, but to make sure they were spending an adequate amount of time interacting with my world, right? Like I would make sure that it's like, okay, you can go to, you can go out in the world and see all these other things that the rest of the world is doing, but I need you to know what you got right here. Did anybody ever go through that where you've accomplished a lot, but your kids really can't see it, right? And it's a lot of it might have to do with the amount of time they spend with you, because we have a society where we're trained to just send our kids away, and all these other people are controlling your child's mind for 12, 13 hours a day. right? And you're doing this because you were trained to believe that that's the way things are supposed to be done. I don't believe that anymore. I'm saying this as a 54-year-old man who will never have any more biological children. But if I was a 24-year-old man with my life ahead of me, I would find me a quality woman who my wife, obviously, my wife's a great woman, so I'm not saying I'm not happy to be married to my wife, but I'm saying like I would literally make sure I married somebody that was on the same wavelength, that understood, they could pick up what I was putting down, and I would say, okay, let's make some money, let's start a business, let's have 5 kids and train them on what it means to be a productive member of this family, and train them in a way where there's sovereignty, where it's like, look, we can provide for ourselves. We're creating things together. If we work together, we succeed together. We don't have to split up to be individually successful. In fact, splitting up reduces our probability of success. It dilutes what we have, right? When you form that solid core, it's strong, it's dense, it's capable. But when you start diluting the core, because pieces of the core are going off and floating into space, then you have nothingness. You have 5 individual pieces that doesn't come close to having the same amount of density, mass, and power as you do when you're together. So instead of being a fist, you become 5 fingers. A finger can never win a fight, but a good fist can knock somebody out. Do you understand? So I think understand when you talk about black power, and I'm really formulating this thought here, so forgive me if I'm over talking it, but I'm really formulating this because I'm learning this. I'm literally learning. I'm not a teacher not right now. I'm a student because I'm learning as I'm exploring this thought. When you talk about black power, I really believe that the core black power comes from not looking outward. Like, hey, white people, will you change this? Hey, white people, will you vote for that? Right? That's not black power because that's diluted. It's dispersed energy spread out in all these different directions. Black power comes from looking inward. Black power comes from um creating that density that occurs when you're turning toward each other, right? Like for example, if you come to the All Black National Convention, you can't tell me that's not black power in the room. Other than the fact that this hotel is maybe not owned by black people, which we're going to fix that one day whenever we can. But beyond that, you come in here, you feel black, you feel powerful. Everybody in here, I don't think it was very rare when I saw a non-black person anywhere, like walking around the lobby, right? Or if I go to Ghana, I see nothing but black people when I was in Ghana. White people weren't even on the radar screen. And so turning toward each other is really that's really how we get the power. Black power is not created by having black faces in white spaces. That's not black power. That's a diluted type of power that's not even real power. It's actually integration slash dilution slash extraction. They're extracting power when they do that. So you are making their institution more powerful because they basically conquered you. But they're not making your institution more powerful. Like there's no documented evidence at any point that black wealth or black quality of life has improved by having more black faces in high places. There's no evidence to show that even black politicians, having black politicians funded by big white corporations, has ever done anything for the black community, for the black masses. So when I'm looking for solutions, when we're talking about things like wealth and stuff like that, I say, well, what solutions can we create that can actually elevate the masses? And so, for example, us systematically having these conversations, thousands and thousands of us getting together every day, talking about wealth and family and community and everything, that's black power. And that impacts the masses because I meet a lot of you and I hear you tell me my life is better because of this, right? I have more money because of this. My family is stronger because of this. And it's not like your success takes away from somebody else's success. It's not a zero sum game. It's not a sort of one off sort of thing. It's like, no, everybody who was listening is getting the same benefit if it embrace any degree of implementation, right? So when you think about black power, think about what that really means, and just know that that really starts with the family. We started losing it when we lost the family. I think we gain it back by reclaiming the family. So again, full confession, if I had kids now, I would, I may not necessarily keep them out of public school and all that, but I would do everything in my power to make sure that I was in their ear educationally as much as everybody else. A lot of times the reason the kids don't like. For example, I'll give you an example. My father was a cop, and he also could fix stuff. He knew how to fix cars. He built a whole extension onto our house. He just knew he just learned stuff. He just knew how to pull that hammer and a nail and a drill. And next thing you know, we got an addition to the house with plumbing and electrical and everything. It was crazy. I didn't learn any of that. I learned none of that. And the reason I learned none of that is because there was never a time where he said, come on, son, I want to show you how to do what I do. Right. And what happened is that because I never learned that, I didn't really gain an appreciation for that until I got older. Right. And the whole time, what he was telling me was some things that that really aren't true. Like, for example, I used to think that being a police officer meant you were a failure in life because in his mind, he wanted his kids to do better, and doing better meant I want you to go to college and get a good job and all that, right? And we did that, right? And so later on though, I was like, wait, being a cop is not doesn't mean you're a failure. That's actually a pretty good that's a that's an honorable job if you do the job well. And then also, I think he underestimated the value of what he would be able to show me because there's this false belief that no, I want you to go over to the white man and go to his schools and work for his businesses because then you'll really be a successful black person. Well, I would dare to differ with or disagree with my dad. I think that if he had said, "Hey, I'm going to go build this extension onto the house and I want you to help me," I think I would have learned not just a lot of skills that are incredibly valuable in life, but I would have gained a greater appreciation for all the things he knew how to do. Do you understand? I think that sometimes when we are overcommitted to this idea that white people can just do things better than us, or that our kids doing better means, like I want you to spend more time with those people over there, you're devaluing yourself. That's my point. You're devaluing all the value that you bring to the life of the kid because you somehow believe that if you go to the white school and work for the white man, you're going to learn all these amazing magical things that I can't ever show you. I don't think that's true. There are lots of things I think my dad could have showed me if he'd understood the importance of making sure I learned from him first before I learned from everybody else. Because as much as I'm ashamed to admit it, I didn't really have a value for all those skills that he had until I was probably 30 years old. And I was like, damn, he knows how to do a lot of stuff. But literally, if my car broke down, I would take it to the shop and wouldn't even ask him how to fix it. It probably made him feel bad. Like you don't even realize how much stuff I know. So, but how are they going to know if you're not spending time with the kids, right? If you're not bringing them into the family business early, how are they going to know how much work it took for you to build that? Right? If you don't bring them with you when you do things, how are they going to know how valuable you are? So I would encourage you keep your kids close. That's my point, right? I'm not saying, block them off from the rest of the world. I am saying that it is my view that when you talk about allocating your time, I want you to think about a 24-hour day. And then I want you to think about how much of that 24-hour day we spend at our little job working for white people. Most of our time, most of our lives is occupied by serving them. We spend more time with our boss than we spend with our children, with our spouses. I don't think that's healthy. I think that's a big part of the reason why black economics has not improved. Again, circling back, just so we can close this off and stick a pin in this conversation. Remember, wealth in America does not come from jobs. Wealth in America does not come from jobs. Wealth in America does not come from jobs. I'm doing an Umar Johnson. I'm gonna repeat it 3 times to make sure you understand that. Wealth in America comes from real estate ownership, stock market ownership, entrepreneurship. In fact, actually, let me see. I think I put a post up about that. Maybe I put it on Twitter, but it's like some stats that I really think you guys should see on this topic. And I'm gonna see if I can find it. If I don't find it here, then I will put it. I'll put it up. It's on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So here we go. All right. So I'm gonna show you something, and don't worry, ignore the meme. Yeah, I have a great person on my team who makes all these little cool pictures of me and with these little quotes and stuff. And her name's Christine. She's awesome. Anyway, so forgetting that part, which actually, what if you want to know what this quote means? Luxury is generational peace, not just generational pieces. That's my way of saying that buying designer stuff is unfortunately, it's all it's doing is it's filling your ego. It's basically taking advantage of your lack of self-esteem to make you falsely believe that if I have this expensive item on my body, that I'm a more worthy human being. And I'm the guy that I'll save you, $50,000 by telling you that you are somebody, even if you're not wearing Gucci or Louis or whatever. So that's the point of that quote there, if you want to know. But here's the part I wanted you to see. Here, look at this. Number one, the average millionaire has seven streams of income, and most come from investing or business ownership, not wages. So the average millionaire has seven streams of income, which goes back to the fact that financial security is not acquired when you have one stream of income, meaning like one job, or even, if both of you have a good job. Financial security comes from multiple streams of income. So that if one stream gets cut off, the other six can take over. Numbers, and also that wealth, that income comes from owning businesses and investing. Every black person on earth that cares about financial security has to be an investor. Stop, and then those who don't listen are probably not going to be financially secure. Two, the median net worth of business owners is about five times higher than that of wage earners. So, for example, the most frustrating statement I heard this week was from a young person who said, I'm switching my major because I want to go and get a job that's going to pay me more money because I really want to make a lot of money. And I just really, it took everything in my power not to interrupt and say, if you really want to make money, be an entrepreneur, master business development, master investing. Yeah, I mean, if you really want to make King Kong money, go become a King Kong entrepreneur. And the earlier you learn it, the better off you'll be. If you and the beauty of entrepreneurship and investing is that it's not like that stupid dream of the NFL or the NBA. Out of 10,000 boys that dedicate their lives to becoming the best football player on earth, only one of them gets to the NFL. Out of 10,000 black boys that dedicate their lives to basketball, one of them gets to the NBA. The other 9,999 are sitting there scrambling. I talked to, again, I met first, as soon as I got here, I met an amazing, intelligent brother who who went to the NFL. And I said, what happened after the NFL? And again, he played in the Rose Bowl and he went to the NFL and he said, I didn't know what to do. He said, I was stuck. He said, a lot of us finish playing and we don't know where to go next. We don't know how to fit into life. I said, man, I said, I wish I could talk to more of you brothers. We do have Ezekiel Elliott from the Dallas, who played for the Dallas Cowboys. His dad is coming to the convention. He's gonna join me on stage for a little bit. I have a lot of respect for him. But I said, man, do you understand that every single thing I learned about how to be a successful black man, I learned from playing sports? Damn near everything I learned. Like, sports is beautiful in terms of teaching you how to win the game of life. Sports teaches you how to set a goal. Sports teaches you how to be consistent toward the achievement of that goal. Sports teaches you how to prepare in advance. If you're playing the championship, you don't practice the day before the game. You practice 7, 8 months before. Sports teaches you toughness and focus and so many things. I said, yeah, almost everything I learned about success in life and academics and all that came from sports. So it baffles me when a guy's like, well, all I know how to do is play in the NBA. I don't know nothing about succeeding in life. I'm like, brother, do you understand that that how much discipline it takes for you to be an NBA player? You can't even eat what you want. You have to watch your weight. You got to come to practice every day. You got to run these complex offensive schemes. You got to, there's so many things you have to do that require hard work, discipline, and mental focus. Just take everything you learned as an athlete and apply it to life. So it's crazy to me that you see this. But long story short, what I like about entrepreneurship is that everybody can be a millionaire. If we all became the best entrepreneurs in the world, every single person in here could be financially successful. There's no limitation. So it's not like the NBA or NFL where they're like, we want 10,000 of you to apply for the job and we're going to hire one. Right? It's like, no, if we create 10,000 black boys that become the best freaking entrepreneurs and business development experts on the planet, all 10,000 of those boys will be rich. We'll have 10,000 millionaires. 10,000 times a million, what's that? $10 billion? Is that right? Did I get the math right? $10 billion is a drop in the bucket in a 20, 30 trillion dollar economy. I don't know what the total gross domestic product is, but $10 billion, if you look at what white boys are doing, if you look at the kinds of numbers they're talking about numbers like 100 billion, 200 billion. Jensen Wong was talking about the creation of Nvidia, and he was talking about the beginnings and not even knowing how to file to start a business and figuring out how to even form a team to get the business going. It's a really crazy video. And it's amazing to me that so Nvidia becomes this $4 trillion company where he's literally created thousands and thousands of millionaires from the creation of one business. So my question then becomes, where are the black Jensen Wongs? Why don't we have a million black boys who are doing exactly what Jensen Wong did 30 years ago when he created NVIDIA, creating businesses that can employ tens of thousands of people? A lot of our Jensen Wongs are on the basketball court trying to compete for one job. A lot of our Jensen Wongs are playing football right now. Maybe a lot of our Jensen Wongs are trying to get their rap career off the ground, right? And I personally will say that maybe we have to change our strategy. Let me go back to this page though, because I want to make sure I read these stats to you. So number two, or I said number two, the median net worth of business owners is 5 times higher than that of wage earners. So business owners make the most money. Number three, over 80% of millionaires are self-made through entrepreneurship and investing, not from a paycheck. So this false idea that millionaires are created because they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth, that's just simply not true. Actually, there is evidence to say that most millionaires actually are self-made on some level. So anyway, I realized I just realized I have to go. Actually, I didn't realize I had a meeting. I got into this conversation so much that I totally forgot that I had an 11 o'clock. um okay, yeah. um Give me 1 second here. Yeah, I'm gonna reschedule the meeting because I totally messed up. I should have only talked for 30 minutes. That's what I get for running my mouth. So I just assumed I didn't have anything else on my calendar. So please forgive me, guys. All right, so let me get out of here. I actually do have a convention to run. I can't do Monday in the morning for the next couple of days because of the convention. Tomorrow, Rizza Islam and I are going to do kind of a state of Black America kind of thing in the morning, and also I think Malik Yoba is going to join us as well, and so it's going to be really fun. And then Saturday and Sunday. Don't forget we have a Sunday day. So again, if you're in the area and you just want to come in on Sunday, feel free to pop by. And we're gonna just pretty much cover everything we possibly can with as many experts as possible. And you can actually see the whole schedule if you go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. We cannot televise it. But what we might do is something digital afterward, and maybe bring the experts back in and do something digital too. All right, so have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you soon. Take care.